Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Rich Clark and a guide to the right path. So this week I'm going to talk about a topic of what actually affects many clients is in the therapeutic world is motivation. Last week I spoke about anxiety, and so this week I'm going to talk about motivation. I'm going to talk about, for this first part, I'm going to talk about the different types of issues linked. So what is motivation? It is the drive that internally or externally that guides, maintains goal-orientated behavior. Behavior is activated and shaped by social, biological, emotional, and cognitive forces. Motivation is a powerful force that drives our behavior, our decisions, and achievements. And the different types of motivation affect individuals in very distinct ways, influencing their performance, well-being, and long-term success. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the differences between these: intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. So the word intrinsic, if you don't know what that means, intrinsic is inside. What motivates you inside from the gut feeling? The gut feeling, if we understand this in Ayurvedic terms, is the solar plexus. I know who I am, right? That's what that is. So it's the knowing and the push of that. And then obviously the sacral is the idea of the connecting with others, but this solar plexus is the drive. And that drive also then influences the brain, which is the third eye, the intuition, to know what to do. The extrinsic motivation is where we actually, with the sacral, is overactive because we want others to recognize our worth. And that is the difference of where you work with people, of how you motivate them. And it's very important when we're working with a client to understand that in the discovery call, whether they intrinsically have motivation to improve or extrinsically they need the outside help. Usually if they're coming to a therapist like me, they need extrinsic motivation because they don't have enough intrinsic motivation to work. So what's intrinsic motivation? So intrinsic motivation comes from within. It's driven by a personal interest, enjoyment, or satisfaction in a task itself. And when people are intrinsically motivated, people experience greater creativity and problem-solving ability. Their activities feel more enjoyable and satisfying. Their engagement tends to be more sustainable long-term, and their learning is often deeper and more conceptual. Now, the extrinsic motivation, this is where everybody gives you praise and so forth. So the extrinsic relies on external rewards or consequences. And the effects include they can provide an initial boost to engage with unfamiliar tasks. They may decrease intrinsic motivation in some situations over justification effect. Often leads to more surface level engagement. Performances may decline when rewards are removed. So when I can explain this from a point of view, I have been since 2008, I was a school teacher. I was an English teacher in between being a therapist and later on. And when you learn with children, you can learn which children you can say, you give them a task and they can motivate themselves and do well, and they know that even getting the work done is a reward itself. Intrinsic motivation is where children, you need a lot more outer help and guidance and pushing to help them achieve that. So there's a very big difference, and it's not that either child is better than the other. It's just that when you're working with people, it's like you have to consider that you're in a group of people. So a group of 30 kids, you kind of want them more to be intrinsic to help you then make the intrinsic learning more inspiring, to make them intrinsically more motivated. So this happens a lot. So the next one, which is actually very interlinked to extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, is achievement motivation. So achievement motivation drives individuals to excel and accomplish goals. These people with high achievement motivation are typical, right? So they set challenging but realistic goals. They take calculated risks and they seek concrete feedback to improve their performance. And they experience greater persistence in the face of obstacles. So if you're in a company or you're yourself, you like challenges, then you have achievement motivation. And then the intrinsic motivation is about how you push yourself to achieve that. It's very much, that's why some people I know I would work with, I know that they would be very good to want to start their own business, but they don't have the intrinsic motivation or achievement motivation. They're too much intrinsically. So they have to get all their advice and everything from outer of themselves, which I don't think on a level works very much for entrepreneurial people. What they want to do is they have the intrinsic motivation, and then hopefully intrinsically it works. That's kind of how they work. So it then goes into this one, is self-determination theory. Now, determination is a massive part of understanding of why people want to succeed. So this theory identifies 3 psychological needs that motivate us. So the first one is autonomy. Having choice and self-direction increases the ownership of their outcomes, their psychological well-being, and their sustained effort. The two, which is quite important, is competence, because are they feeling capable, and that effectiveness enhances this to confidence to take on challenge. Have they got the willingness to develop skills and resilience when facing difficulties? And then the next one is relatedness, connection to others' influences. So Estelle, we're talking about the intrinsic motivation, but it's actually about how the commitment is to have shared goals. So the commitment to shared goals, the willingness to internalize group values, and overall satisfaction and well-being. And so when we look at this, then we're looking at it from a business point of view, or friendship, or family, is what we look at is when people are growing up, and we can look at it from the Hindu idea of the four types of in Hinduism, is that the idea of growth is that when you're studying and then you're growing as someone from the age of 26 onwards, and then within that you want to get away from the fixed mindset, you want to do the growth and better yourself as all the time. So the growth versus mindset, which is equally as important as the self-determination theory, because if you don't have the growth or the fixed mindset, then you don't know how to work with people. So with a growth mindset, the believing abilities can be developed, and this fosters a greater resilience, more effort when facing challenges, and higher achievement over time. Whereas the issue with a fixed mindset, believing abilities are static, often result in avoidance of challenges, reduced effort after setbacks, and lower achievement potential. So if you have an issue with motivation and you want to help increase your intrinsic motivation, your self-determination, you want to be more competent, have relatedness and ownership and accountability, then please contact me on www.richclark.net, and we can set up a discovery call with that on the website. And then from there, we can work out whether you want to do sessions with me, the one session to start off with because you've never had therapy before and feel comfortable. If after the first session you decide you want to do a program, we can go into that, or you can decide that you can go into a program straight away because you know what you want. Anyway, if you are interested in these, please do contact me on my website. Also, please look out for the next of the videos this week. I'm going to talk about motivation, and I'm also going to talk about negative mindset next week, about how you can flip that as well. So until next time, I shall speak to you soon.